Lucius Nunn, also known as L.L. Nunn, had a profound impact on Telluride. He came to Telluride after it was a well-known mining town, and he came here to make his money, to make his claim.
L.L. Nunn was typical of many people that came west. He came to Colorado, first going to Leadville. He owned a tin bathtub and would rent this to the grimy miners on the weekends so they could clean up. So when he was right around 30 years old, he made his way to Telluride. He had a loan with the Gold King Mining Company. The Gold King's main source of power was coal, but your source of ore is not always steady. And in the case of the Gold King, they started to drop off on their ore production, which meant they weren't keeping up with being able to pay their bills.
He recognized that they had to do something to save the mining industry in the Telluride area, and so he began to look for alternative sources of power.
And he was, brave enough to be trying new technology, to look for some different alternative in order to keep his mine's mills up and running.
So everybody knew about DC power, but what they did know about Edison was that it was successful. They could use DC power, but it couldn't be transmitted over long distance. So L.L. Nunn was researching different ways to use DC power and came across Westinghouse's technology.
So Nunn serendipitously wired the Westinghouse Corporation and got a hold of George Westinghouse, who liked the idea. So a meeting was set up where Nunn would visit company headquarters in Pittsburgh and present his idea to the Westinghouse board. When he did this, the Westinghouse board thought it was a grand idea and they supported it. So Nunn traveled back by train to Telluride thinking that everything was set. But when he arrived in Telluride, George Westinghouse had sent him a telegram saying that the board reconsidered this proposal because they figured the cost was going to be too high. Well, it was disappointing to Nunn, but fortunately, the Gold King hit a new pocket of ore. He took a train back, and when he walked into the boardroom, he had a big bag. There was $20 gold pieces in the amount of $50,000. And he plonks this bag on the table and says, "Gentlemen, this is what the Gold King brings to the table. What will you do?" It impressed George Westinghouse so much that he gave $25,000 of his personal fortune. And by the close of the meeting, the board was convinced and agreed to pursue the project.
And so in 1890, L.L. Nunn and George Westinghouse began developing an electrical generation system in the town of Ames, just a little outside of Ophir, Colorado.
In constructing the Ames power plant, Nunn had to rely on other people to build it. And what he was good at was recruiting young college students that were in engineering programs throughout the United States.
And L.L. Nunn called them pinheads. And this name came about because these young electrical engineering students came from all over the country. And so in L.L. Nunn's office, he had a giant map of the U.S., and wherever a student would come from, he would pin them on the map.
The technology was so new that it actually was a party for the people of Telluride in the area. They would come out knowing that this technology was going to go online on a Sunday afternoon, and they come out with their picnic lunches and their buggies and watch Ames, generate the first alternating current electricity. So it was quite an exciting time for them.
At Ames, you had a large crowd and a smaller crowd up at the Gold King mine. Nunn, being somewhat of a showman himself, announced what he was going to do. He flipped the switch, and sparks flew from one switch to another, and the electrical current was sent up to the Gold King mine. The electric induction motors there come to life. It's a successful project. Once Nunn's Ames power plant was running, Nunn quickly began the Telluride Power Company and wanted to extend this network throughout the Telluride area. Thanks to L.L. Nunn and his Ames power plant, small mining communities like Telluride were electrified way before some of the major cities in this country.
His legacy always will be attached to being the one who helped bring alternating current to mankind.